ng socio-political apostolate ng Kapisanan ni Jesus. Ito ang Kwentuhang Bayan mula alas 11 ng umaga tuwing Biyernes dito lang sa Radyo Katipunan 87.9 FM. Dahil naniniwala kami na posible ang isang mas mabuting lipunan at maaari itong simulan sa isang kwentuhan.
Get your daily dose of inspiration through our music. Follow jescom.ph on Spotify and Jescom Music in YouTube.
Radyo Katipunan 87.9 FM.
And there was another drive-by shooting.
The fire we reported at the old fire hall is still burning out.
Do you sometimes feel confused or lost in the complications and complexities of life? Do you feel drained, listless, or exhausted from the daily burdens and responsibilities? Why not seek our campus ministers on air every Tuesday from 2 to 3 in the afternoon? Listen to our counselors from the Loyola School's Campus Ministry Office as they ground our lives in our faith, in our school's spiritual tradition. Campus Ministers on Air. Be guided, be inspired, be blessed. Listen to our Campus Ministers on Air.
Rejoice! Refresh! Renew! Listen to the artists of the Jesuit Music Ministry. Search jescom.ph on the app or click on this link to learn more. Rejoice! Refresh! Renew! Listen to the artists of the Jesuit Music Ministry. Search jescom.ph on the app or click on this link to learn more.
Radyo Katipunan 87.9 FM. We are now on YouTube. Watch all of our live episodes plus exclusive content in our channel at Radyo Katipunan FM. Don't forget to click subscribe and hit the bell to get the latest updates.
Jesuit Music Ministry, your daily dose of inspiration. Follow jescom.ph on Spotify and Jescom Music on YouTube. We are also on iTunes and Deezer.
Radyo, 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 Katipunan, radyo, Katipunan, radyo, Katipunan, radyo, 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 Katipunan, radyo, Katipunan. The voice of W Eagle kami, di mapipigil sa pagbabalitang tumpak at tama. Buhay atin sa labas ng eskwela, ating ibibida lahat ng eskwela. Radyo, 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 Katipunan, radyo, 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 Katipunan, radyo, Katipunan, radyo, Katipunan. Kawal ni Ignacio, Katipunero sugo, todo sa kayod, tunong at tulong. Ipag W Eagle, galing hiding at tigil.
Welcome to The Rundown, where we take you right into the action with the latest sports news, updates, game previews, breakdown, and analysis in, around, across, and beyond the Ateneo. And now, let's get ready to run down!
All right, what is up, Blue Eagle Nation? Thank you again for tuning into us over here at Radyo Katipunan 87.9, the voice of the Blue Eagle. Sana naman safe po tayo lahat. Sana healthy tayo lahat. I hope everyone's doing all right in their homes as you should be. So better spend na lang your Wednesday afternoon talking hoops with us over here at Radyo Katipunan. And joining us for the very first time, okay, Ateneans, though he might be coaching on the green side of things in Taft for St. Benilde, he's an Ateneo alumnus, just like many of our loyal listeners. I want to give a warm welcome to Coach Paolo Layug. Coach Pao, thank you so much for being here.
Hey man, thanks for having me on. It's an honor, and thanks for the great introduction. Now everyone's gonna tune out.
Okay, so how do I put this ba, Coach Pao? Welcome back to Ateneo virtually,
Yeah.
sort of. I mean, if it weren't for COVID, we'd be in the studio, sana having the setup and everything. But, anyways, back to talking hoops for this afternoon. So, Coach Pao, for almost 2 years now, we hadn't had any college basketball in Metro Manila, but for the past 2 weeks, whew, we have been treated to a lot. I mean, a lot of college basketball thanks to the recently concluded NCAA March Madness tournament. I think it's one of the most exciting editions now we've ever seen. But Coach Pao, like, how was your viewing experience like? Parang did it fill in the void, the absence of college basketball?
Yeah. For me, it was what for one, it was one of the rare times I actually got to watch some games because normally be having practice, I'd be going back and forth, work and doing work. Now it's just we were stuck at home. Okay, no choice. I have nothing better to do. There's no PBA, there's no UAP, NCAA. So it's like, okay, now I can watch US NCAA. And I agree with you. It was really, it was a great tournament. There was a lot of really good games, and especially the Final Four. I really enjoyed that.
Definitely, definitely. I mean, down to the wire finishes. Even in the women's national title game, Stanford just barely escaped Arizona. That last second desperation heave by, Ari McDonald just, clanked off the rim. But okay, Coach Pao, before we dissect, Baylor's ultra domination of Gonzaga in the national championship game, let's go back a bit to perhaps the Oh, I'm still ranking Chris Jenkins 2016 Villanova title winning shot as the best Final Four shot I've ever seen. But UCLA, the team that I'm proudly rooting for right now, bowed down to Gonzaga. No thanks to a two dribble, 55-foot, just launch pad rocket shot of a heat-seeking missile from Jalen Suggs. Okay, Coach Pao, earlier we were talking about analytics, but at that moment, right, when it's on the line, Jalen Suggs had to heave it. Good shot, bad shot.
Oh, he had no choice. They didn't call. What was interesting is I think they had a timeout. They didn't call a timeout with like 4 or 5 seconds left. So normally, if that was like 10 seconds, okay, fine, maybe you can inbound. Just let them go and let your best player go or whatever if you have a play. But they had like 4 or 5 seconds, and then they just inbounded quickly, and then he just took it, and it was one of those. It was like, wow, like UCLA tied it, and then all of a sudden, quick inbound,
Yeah.
and then game winner, bank shot. I was like, for me, that was, and if you watch from start to finish, that was the best US NCAA game I've watched.
Wow, the
Start
best.
to finish. Okay, start to finish. It was
Right.
a great game. Lots of lead changes. Both teams were playing great. It was a big treat for us basketball fans.
Definitely. And but Coach Pao, no, parang most people also fail to remember Jalen Suggs made it happen on the defensive end before that shot. He diba, he had a really clutch block. Diba? Parang
Yeah.
like for you watching that, hey, this guy does it on both ends, diba?
It was he made a. I remember that because as us coaches, we have like our coaching group at CSB, and we were messaging each other, and we were just talking about that block where he made a read, he got the block, he got the loose ball after, and then he made like a one-handed full court bounce pass for a dunk. It was like a crazy highlight from defense to offense. So it was an amazing sequence. He got it done both ends, and then of course he hits the game winner in the end. He had a great performance.
Definitely. And we'll touch on this later, Coach Pao, but I think Jalen Suggs, with that type of performance, the way he's shooting up draft boards, whew, huge impact on his potential NBA career. But did it for you? Parang after watching that, of course, we're all on a high watching the Jalen Suggs game, that buzzer beater versus UCLA, and then come national final, it's nothing like that. It's complete start to finish, run down, blowout, pack out of the gym. I mean, was it like, I don't know how a coach views it, but did it sort of die down the excitement a bit?
Yeah, I have to agree with you. It was a letdown, but it's hard because, like I said, the previous game was the best US NCAA game that I watched start to finish. So you go from that, and then it's like the first 3 to 4 minutes, it's like Baylor's up already like 10, 12 points, whatever it was. And then it was just complete domination the entire game. So you're just like, okay, just waiting for the game to end already.
Right. But I mean, there's still lots of things to nitpick about that game, and we're gonna touch on that later. But Coach Pa, the reason I just wanted to bring this up on air, the reason why I'm wearing the UCLA jersey is because I'm proudly repping my dad's alma mater. So before I became Enrico Villanueva Rich Alvarez Ateneo 2002 fan, I grew up actually a UCLA Bruins fan because my father had the privilege of watching a curly-haired redhead back in the 1970s being coached by a man who, by the sidelines, would kiss his wife before every game, share a flying kiss with his paper rolled up. And I'm talking about Bill Walton and John Wooden. So my college basketball stories growing up would be about, Bill Walton was, how he'd sit along the sidelines with ice packs on his knee. So for me, watching UCLA sort of resurrect their program. They've been dormant for since 2008. So just watching them get back there in the big dance, Final Four, it meant so much to me just looking at that trajectory.
Yeah, actually, what's funny though is UCLA was my dream school growing up. Also, it's like that's the school I wanted. If I were to apply abroad, I wanted to go to UCLA, and a big part of it was also because when I was young, I wanted to be a coach, and like my idol coach was John Wooden.
Wow.
So, and then of course, every time I see UCLA play, I want them to win. So, but of course, Gonzaga, it was a tough loss for UCLA, but it was a great game.
It was. So, okay, Coach Paul, let's try to take a walk in the shoes of Gonzaga. Back-to-back heartbreak city for Gonzaga. So Final Four, you exorcise the demons of the Adam Morrison crying on the floor Elite 8 2006 game. And then on the biggest stage, after nailing down that buzzer beater the previous game, on the biggest stage, national championship stage, voila, it becomes all everything that you've worked so hard for, it's down the drain. I mean, not to disrespect Coach Mark Few, but everything, but just to be humiliated in that fashion. Coaches like you, what's the first thing that you tell your players after that?
I think I would remind the players that, it was still a great season. Of course, it's hard. If you lose a championship game like that, sometimes as a coach, there's nothing to say. You just lost, right? But I would remind the players, like, whether they won or not, I'm sure Coach Mark told them, like, he still loves them the same way. Because it's a journey, especially in college, you're going through this journey and helping these young men. You always have to be there for them and remind them that, there's a game that's bigger than basketball, and that's life. And no matter what, win or lose, you're going to be there for them, no matter what. So especially, and you don't know what's going to happen, because I remember, who knows, man, maybe next year they win the championship. Because I don't know if you remember a couple years ago, Virginia, they lost first overall, number 1 seed lost the 16th seed.
Yes.
What happens the following year? It just made their story more special because they overcame the most humiliating loss in NCAA tournament history, and then they go on to win a championship the following year. So I don't know if Gonzaga is going to be able to, like, they're going to keep their players. If guys are going, I'm sure some guys are going to enter the draft, but they also have some, like Chet Holmgren, I think is on the radar.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so he
Okay.
might commit to them, and he's one of the best high school recruits. So who knows? Maybe they'll make it back next year, and they'll just use their loss this year with one game away from being a perfect season national champions. Maybe they use that as a springboard and motivation to come back and win a championship next year.
Right. Well said, Coach Pao. Yeah, but diba, I know players. Diba, you talk about players having to be mentally tough. I mean, okay, it's a championship game, but there's always next game for you. But for a coach, the way you coach a perfect season, and then I'm thinking you draw up the best game plan to stop Baylor, who's an equally impressive team in their own right, and then you lose that way. But like, how does a coach sort of mentally deal with that frustration? I mean, it's a whole ride of emotions.
I think as a coach, it's hard being a coach because every game, especially every loss, weighs so heavily on you. It's like you feel like you're responsible, but the truth is when you get on in the game, it's the players playing. And not to take anything away from Baylor or what Coach Mark did with his program. They've been a great program the past 20, 25 years, right? It's just sometimes you just come up with a poor performance, and it was just unfortunate that the thing about the US NCAA tournament, it's one game.
Right.
So if you come up flat in one game, that's it, you're done. It's not like pro basketball, NBA, PBA, where it's like a best of 7 series. Okay, you lose game one, okay, you still got a few other games to try and make it up. This is, if you don't do well in one game, you're done. So
Right.
unfortunately, Gonzaga had a poor start. Okay, I think Baylor had a lot to do with it. They came out guns a blazing. They were making shots, and the physicality that their guards had on Gonzaga couldn't get into a rhythm. It took them out of their rhythm. They had a poor start, and it just compounded. It's like they shot poorly, they had turnovers, and then Baylor's hitting tough shots.
Right.
So now it's like your energy levels down, and from that, Gonzaga couldn't recover after a poor start.
Right. Right. Like, Coach Pao, no, parang are we? No, is the media, fans, everything put together? No, is it because for me the narrative sort of shifted to more about Gonzaga losing it than Baylor winning it, because Gonzaga had more history riding on the line. Oh, 41-0, undefeated season, perfect season. Do you think that even with the win, Baylor's still not getting enough credit for that?
Yeah.
For how they demolished Gonzaga.
I agree with you. I think if you even if Gonzaga played like a great game, Baylor might have won. They played really, really well on both ends. And there was like one clip I'll never forget this. I should save it and show it to my players. This one guy, he saved a 50-50 ball from going out of bounds. He threw it back in on one side of the court. His teammates did not get the ball. And then the guy didn't stop playing. He runs to the opposite corner and contests a 3-point shot, which misses. And they're up 17 with like 3 minutes to go. So as much as some people might say that Gonzaga lost it, Baylor earned the win. Okay, they were one of the best teams the entire season, and they kicked Gonzaga's butts again. They definitely deserved that championship.
For sure. Like, Coach Val, going back to that moment, when a guy is hustling like that, up 17, it's booked. It's booked. You've just won the championship. But when a guy is hustling for you like that, like, isn't that a coach's dream?
Yeah, man. That's all you could ever ask from any player, man. It's even if they miss a shot or whatever, nobody wants to miss, right? But all you want is the effort. Okay, this dude, you're winning a championship. You already know you're gonna win. It's a one game, like you said, and he's still busting his ass on the court on defense, trying to get a 50-50 ball. He's not complaining that his teammates didn't get the loose ball after he saved it, and then he's trying to contest the shot in the opposite corner. That's all you can ask from any player, for them to give it their all. So
Right.
if I was Coach Drew, I'd be so proud of that moment right there. I think that encapsulates their run during the NCAA tournament.
True. And Coach Pauno, since you mentioned about Coach Scott Drew, who's been at the helm for Baylor for the past 18 years, imagine that. I dug up a bit of trivia about Coach Scott Drew. So back in 2003, boy, this is Carmelo Anthony freshman phenom year. Anyway, so Baylor had one of the most tragic stories on campus because one of their players, Carlton Dotson, tragically murdered his teammate Patrick Dennehy during an argument. So guns were involved and everything like that. But like for you, if you're a coach in Scott Drew's position, what motivates you to take on it's not just a coaching job, it's a rebuilding job. And what does it take for you to commit yourself to a program for 18 years knowing that I'm starting with this, a murder on campus? Parang that's unheard of.
I think what was crucial for Coach Drew is he had the vision. He knew how he wanted the program to be, and he knew what it would take to get there. So I think a lot of people they look at your where it is right now. They focus so much on what's happening right now, but it takes a visionary to say this is what the program could be despite how the things are right now. So he had so much confidence in himself and in the staff, and being able to build a program like that, it's really super impressive. You talk about how he built the culture and turned everything around. Like how many coaches would be willing to step into a situation like that, where like you said, there was probably one of the biggest controversies or scandals, whatever you want to call it, in college history, not even sports history. It's like college history, or something like that happens, and you step in and you're confident that you can execute the vision that you have, and now it's paid off 18 years later. And that's what I feel is one of the biggest differences between like the US NCAA at their college programs there compared to here. You hear about a lot of these coaches who are coaching there for 15, 20, 25, 30 years. As compared to here, where it's just different. Here you might get a coaching cycle of 5 years, and you'd be lucky to be at a place for 5 to 7 years, right? To really make an impact and really make a change, because it takes time, right? So kudos also to the athletic departments of Baylor for sticking with Coach Drew for that long, and now it's finally paid off.
I mean, Coach Pao, can we ever have something like that? Sort of like a Dean Smith, a John Wooden, a Coach K, who's been with the program for, like what you said, 30 plus years? Or is the culture of college basketball here like just totally different? I mean, it doesn't put the framework for that to exist, diba?
Yeah, I think it's it's just really different. Okay, you're rarely going to see anyone stay in a college more than 5 years. Okay, maybe before you would see it. Like, I love this example is Coach Leo Austria at Adamson. He was there 7, 8 years, and he didn't win a championship, but you can definitely say his tenure there was a major success. Okay, he turned the program around, was able to recruit players. They were able to make the Final Four, even produce an MVP player and other players who would end up going to the pros. So I think, this is my opinion. Obviously, I'm a little bit biased because I am a college coach, but I think you have to give college coaches time, okay? Because it takes time to really build a program. It took Norman Black how many years to win a championship? I think in his 4th year, right? And then it paid off. They went on to win how many championships, right? And then now you're seeing it with Coach Tab. Although Coach Tab, obviously, that's a different thing. He was able to make the finals, I think, the first year. So it really takes a lot of time. It's not it's super hard, man, to win, especially right now in the UAAP. It's so, like, you look at each team, you're like, man, each of these teams is like super loaded, man. And it's being in the NCAA, there's a big discrepancy, I feel, with the level of the talent level between the UAAP teams and the NCAA teams right now. Okay, when I first started coaching, NCAA teams are really good. Like you'd see in preseason tournaments, NCAA teams, UAP, it's the same level. Okay. Over the past few years, I think maybe more funding and the recruitment's been crazy. Like UAP teams right now are just so loaded. but I think that also provides an opportunity for players if they want to go to the NCAA. They might have a bigger opportunity for them for to shine, more opportunities to play. So I think that's something to consider for up and coming student athletes.
Right, right. Like, but Coach Pao, no, I'm glad I'm on the blue side of things. I can't complain. Free straight. Come on. No, no problem with that whatsoever. What Coach Pao? Since we're discussing about the cultural differences between US NCAA and our collegiate leagues, no, but Gonzaga, okay, freshman phenom, Jalen Suggs, one and done, surefire NBA lottery pick. But I took a look at the Baylor players who stood out for the Bears at that game. Jared Butler, he hit those big threes in the second half. No, junior year, All-American. Davion Mitchell, the guy with the quick first step, the Donovan Mitchell lookalike.
Yeah. Also number 45.
Also number 45. Fourth season, all right? He was named Big 12 Newcomer of the Year. Masio Teague. Akala ko Marshall Lasseter. But anyway, Masio Teague. Second team All Big 12. He was returning for, I think, junior season. Mark Vital, their PJ Tucker lookalike. Fifth-year player. Parang, for you as a coach, how refreshing is it to see that Baylor and Scott Drew built their team on upperclassmen, seniors, rather than, okay, one and done, like John Calipari. Oh, 7 one and dones in 1 year, diba? For this one, diba? It's like the old school way of building a program.
I think it's you gotta consider that for each school you have a different type of recruitment strategy, and that plays into your development strategy as well. So if you're a quote unquote blue chip, not blue chip, but like a traditional powerhouse, a Duke, North Carolina, Kentucky, you are gonna get the top recruits every year.
Yeah.
But a lot of times those guys are gonna be one and dones, right? So now it's like you don't even have a choice. It's like you're just gonna get them. You try and win for 1 year, and maybe you don't really get a chance to develop them. But they are talented, so your team is going to do well, relatively well. If you're like a team like a Baylor or a program like Baylor, which isn't like a traditional powerhouse, like you're gonna rely heavily on player development, guys who stay in your program, or maybe even guys who transfer into your program, more players who are a little bit more mature, players whose games are a little bit more developed. So now you're looking at Baylor's team where they're full of upperclassmen. They understand the system a little bit more. They're physically more mature. Okay, maybe they're even more. Imagine, man, when we were in college, I don't want to share my stories when I was in college, but imagine like the decisions you are making as a freshman as compared to when you're a third year or fourth year college student. You have to remember that these are young men who are still figuring out their way in the world. So there's a big difference between a first year player and a third year, a fourth year, a fifth year player. And maybe for a team like Baylor, that translates on the court as well.
Right.
So you can't say which one is better, which one isn't, because you never know. You might get that, like you mentioned Carmelo Anthony earlier. He was a freshman. They did well, right? So it's really hard to say, man. It's really hard to say.
But like for this, Coach Pao, I mean, for Baylor and Scott Drew, maybe it just fell in line with him, diba, staying there for 18 years. So he saw that, okay, maybe building my team through upperclassmen and seniors, maybe that's how we can compete, diba? Because they're never gonna be a UCLA, they're never gonna be a Kentucky, diba?
Yeah, I agree with that. Also, it's really that's just how it is. I think if you're a coach and you enter that situation, like you already know, like at least not now. We're not gonna be everyone wants to go play for us. It's not gonna be that way. But now that they won, maybe it's gonna be like, hey, they're building something nice over there in Baylor. Maybe a 5-star recruit's gonna be like, I want to be part of that program.
Right. I see. But okay, Coach Pao, going back to the game, no. I think again, Baylor's guards, they were just, they were on their A games. I mean, we mentioned Jared Butler. big time freeze. Davion Mitchell, he was able to just collapse the Gonzaga defense. Okay, Mark Few and Gonzaga, they're kind of like my favorite team, San Antonio Spurs. Perfect team game, the ball movement, cuts, precise actions on the floor. But Baylor, interestingly, they kind of relied more on the individual talent of these veteran players. Like Coach Pao, what's the value of having multiple players who can create for themselves versus the perfect team San Antonio Spurs Gonzaga style of play?
I think it's you're talking about something that's like contrasting styles of play,
Mm,
right? So if I have a guard who is super talented, right, who can go one on one, I think there should be a part of your offense that helps feature them, right? Because there's certain players that you get and they can go, man. They can just get you a bucket,
mm,
right? So it wouldn't make sense to just put them in a system where the ball goes away from them, right? So if
right.
there are certain players, they fit well in the system. They can't create their own shot, but the system can create a shot for them,
Mm,
right? You mentioned Gonzaga being like the Spurs. The Spurs are kind of like that, right? They need the system to create shots for their players where their players can shine. There are other teams where you kind of have to rely like this guy can create, and because he can create, the defense has to help. There's a breakdown. There's going to be rotations, and he can create shots not only for himself but for his teammates as well.
mm,
So it's just wise for you to put the ball in his hands and let him go and let him create in
right.
whatever capacity it is. Now it's up to the coach, X's and O's wise, to create an environment or a situation where he can take advantage of those skills.
I see. I see. And to add to that, now, Coach Pao, I like what Mark Vital said. Their PJ Tucker lookalike. He said, you know what, Gonzaga, they never played dogs like us before. I mean, they're 31-0, but they never played dogs like us. I mean, okay, March Madness. I know it's about the hottest team. Diba? If you're hot, good chance of winning it all. But when does being the hottest team not help you when you're facing like an underdog team who they know who knows for themselves that they're coming at you. They're not afraid of, okay, you're what, 6-0 right now in the tournament. Parang we're here to stop you in your tracks, and we're here to win it just as much as you want to win it.
I think, well, first of all, they were supposed to play against each other, and I think earlier in the season, it was
Mm,
supposed to be like the most anticipated game of the season, and then because of COVID-related issues, they weren't able to play. So it kind of got like delayed until the NCAA final.
right.
I mentioned earlier, I really think the physicality of the defense of the Baylor guards really took Gonzaga out of their game. And I think maybe, I'm not really sure, I can't say, obviously I wasn't there, but being 30-0 and having the pressure of having a perfect season, maybe that got into Gonzaga, and then they got into a
Yeah.
bad start, and then everything it was like an avalanche of, oh man, we're making mistakes, they're playing perfect,
Right.
it's slipping away, and then that helped into um their demise and not being able to perform at their best level in the biggest game of the season.
Right. Right. And then Coach Pao, speaking about individual talent. So Jalen Suggs, we know him, lottery pick for Gonzaga. But there are other All-Americans. Now, there are other stars. And Corey Kispert, the shooter. And then their center in Drew Timmy. Love the stash, by the way. But, I mean, were Kispert and Timmy more, they became All-Americans because they excelled in Mark Few's system rather than Jalen Suggs, who by himself is already, he's lottery pick talent. Because like when you're watching Drew Timmy, like he played great against UCLA, and then he plays against Baylor. He's exposed, Coach Pao. He on switches, they killed him on hedges,
Yeah.
drop coverage. They killed him. Corey Kispert, di ba parang he was firing blanks. So were Kispert and Timmy were they more like products of Gonzaga's system? Because going to the next level, NBA teams sort of value individual talent, di ba? More than the
Yeah.
pieces in the puzzle, so to speak, diba?
I think I would have to agree with you. I didn't watch them their entire college careers, but it really seems like their games were featured because of the system. Like they fit well in that system. And then when it came to a game where things weren't going their way, they kind of wilted. So it was really, and it was on both ends. They were getting exposed. It was just a poor game for them. And I agree with you that in the NBA, this is what I find so like people like to compare like whatever, PBA to NBA. Dude, it's a completely different game, and the NBA is just a completely different game from
Yes.
anywhere in the world.
Mm.
Because like what you said, there's the individual talent there, and the way that and I always say this in every show or every coach that I talk to, the rules really favor offensive players,
True.
guys who can go attack the rim, who can go one-on-one. Okay, so if you have that type of skill, of that type of talent, you're going to shine in the NBA. Okay, because that's just the way the game is right now in the NBA. Now it's completely different when you go to like EuroLeague, B League, PBA, whatever, any other league in the world. It's a different game.
Mm.
So I was making jokes like other coaching friends that Timmy, the center, I was like, man, he's gonna look really good in the B League or in the PBA next year. He's really good, man. But I
Yeah,
don't think
yeah.
athletically, I don't know if he's gonna be able to make it in the NBA. I hope I'm wrong. Like I hope like he makes it, he makes it to the NBA. But there's nothing wrong with playing the EuroLeague or as an import anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
You know, there's a market for a guy like him.
Mm. Right. Parang ano rin eh, we're not saying they're bad players. No, diba? Parang
Yeah.
it's like their play, their build, their athleticism, everything, their package could be more marketable in like another league, right?
Yeah, it's dude. I just said, man, it was like if you're in the NBA, man. Like, did you watch that clip of Brian Scalabrine like a couple weeks ago where he went? Like, someone
The
tried
high
to
school
challenge
kid.
him.
High school
Right,
kid.
dude, NBA player, man. I've seen like no joke, man. I've been in like some tune-up games where what's this guy's name, man? Played for Morocco, but he didn't last because for whatever reason. Terrence Williams.
Mm.
Okay, T Will. It was like a 8th pick or something. No joke, man. Like we played a tune-up game against him, and I think in the third quarter he had like 40-something points where he wasn't even trying. Like
Not
the
trying.
talent level of an NBA player is so high. So
Wow.
you're talking about 30 teams, 15 players, give or take per team. So you're talking about whatever, 450, the best 450, 500 players in the world. So it's if you don't make it to the NBA, I mean, it's tough, man. It's super hard to make it. But you
Right.
can have a great career playing in the Euro League, in Asia, and the CBA. They pay well there. Japan pays well. I think these guys, and I think that's what's going to be interesting with this Gonzaga team because they have a lot of foreign talent on their
Yes.
over the years,
Yes.
and they've produced some NBA players, but a lot of their players end up being pros around the world,
Mhm.
and that's a great recruitment tool.
True, true. You know what, Coach Pao? No, I'm glad that you brought up that point because I wanna of course I wanna talk about Gonzaga for a bit over here. The loss, okay, humiliating, embarrassing, but Mark Few, the way he built the Zags program, they play in the West Coast Conference, which is not ACC, it's not Pac-12, it's not Big Ten, but 20 years, they're always in the postseason. They're always making a run in March Madness. And then it got me thinking, the way Mark Few built Gonzaga, I think the foundation has to be two things. Number one, elite coaching. Diba? That's a given. But number two, the one that you mentioned, Coach Pao, international recruitment. I'm talking about guys like Rui Hachimura, Japan, Domas Sabonis, Lithuania, Robert Sacre, the great Lakers center, Canada. No, but seriously, international recruitment. Like, is that something you think should be embraced by more universities, perhaps even over here?
I'm glad you brought that up because I'll go back to the two things that you brought up. Number one is elite coaching. There's an underrated aspect in their program, and that's the assistant coach,
Oh yeah.
Tommy Lloyd, who has coached and been like, I read a story about him, how he traveled around the world for like a year or something with his wife. And then he got into coaching. And that's why he has also a lot of contacts abroad.
Oh.
And he's coached around the world as well. So he's a big part of their program. They've already written it in stone. He's going to be the next head coach.
Wow.
So going back to that, now they had like a quote where they said they're going fishing where other fishermen aren't going,
Uh-huh.
right? So they're trying to find the best talents around the world. They don't care where you're from, as long as you can study and you can play,
Mm.
right? And I think that's something that a lot of teams. There's certain small schools that do that. I remember, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say it's St. Mary's. They had like 6 or 7 of the like Australian youth team on their college basketball team roster because like their one of their assistant coaches is a coach on the Australian national team.
Oh, yeah, Patty Mills played for St. Mary's.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them who went to St. Mary's. Okay,
Ah.
so now relating that back to what teams are doing here, there's a couple programs that are starting to do that already. FEU is one of them.
Mm.
Okay, so FEU has over the past few years they've gotten guys from This was from Norway, and then they've gotten Ken Tuffin who's playing in the NBL now.
Yes.
They have a lot of guys from wherever, man. And it's kind of funny that you brought that up because in CSB we kind of have by accident the same strategy. We have players from who are Phil Canadian, we have a Phil Japanese, we have a Phil Kiwi, Phil Australian, Phil Americans. We were supposed to have a Phil Canadian. It's like half our roster are guys from all over the world.
Interesting.
And it's interesting because I feel like it's inevitable because there's so many Filipinos around the world. So eventually those first generation, second generation, now we're entering the third generation Filipinos. Filipinos love basketball. Doesn't matter where they're at. They just love basketball.
Yes.
So it's only natural that the kids of these Filipinos who went abroad, they're gonna want to come back here and play basketball here, try and get a scholarship. Okay, you see in Ateneo now, you just got another Phil Italian. They have Phil Americans, Phil Canadians, right? It's inevitable. There's going to be so many Phil foreigners trying to come back here, and they're Filipino. For me, that's the way I see them. I don't care if you grew up here or you grew up abroad. You're Filipino. You're Filipino, right? So you're going to see a lot of Phil foreign talents come in, and I also think we're going to see a lot, and we've been seeing it the last few years. Phil Americans playing in the US NCAA because the level of play of Filipinos is really, really rising.
Even Coach Pao, even Pinay hoopers in the US NCAA, which is for me okay. This is something, diba?
Yeah.
And diba, speaking of that influx, of I don't want to say Phil foreign talent, but the Filipino talent na lang coming from overseas.
That's a better way to say it, I think.
Diba? Parang we're so used to that. I import Phil foreign.
Yeah.
Pero Filipino talent from overseas. Like Coach Pao, you've witnessed this personally. How high does it bring up the level of play?
I think for one is number one, the talent level is getting higher. Just and even like the guys who are playing here locally, man, the kids nowadays are so good. Like you see some of these like high school kids, you're just like, how's that guy? It's insane. The skill level is insane, right?
Yes.
And the talent level, there's just more exposure now. Guys are getting better coaching. The level of coaching is really on the rise everywhere. Okay, and even here, I really believe that there's a lot of great Filipino coaches in the youth levels here. Okay, we just don't hear about them, but there's so many good coaches, and the talent level it's going up. It's only a matter of time until we start hearing multiple Filipinos make it to the NBA. I'm really confident of that.
Exciting to hear that. Which makes me think, Coach Pao, before we end our broadcast for this afternoon, among the schools that Kai Soto was talking to in 2018, Georgia Tech, Auburn, Gonzaga. Okay, so looking back, G League, Gonzaga, I don't know, but could have been something, diba? I mean, it would have been cool to see Kai, March Madness, all of that, but all right, Coach Pao, just to get your thoughts on this. So, kasi I saw a tweet about, Jalen Suggs now he could have made 500K, which is a lot in going to the G League Ignite, but he still chose Gonzaga. So, and look at his story in March Madness. He made waves in there. So, for example, Jalen Suggs, him excelling at Gonzaga, does it still prove that college basketball, it can still compete with whatever the G League Ignite program brings. Diba? College basketball is it's tradition. It's meant to. Diba? It's always gonna have the upper hand.
Yeah. It's this is my opinion though. I feel like that G League Select program it's very interesting because number one, it allows the player to make some money already.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm hoping that down the road the NCAA is gonna loosen up in their rules and that players can actually make money off their likeness. I think they deserve it. Okay. Now I find that the G League program is very I think if your goal is to make it to the NBA, to be a pro player,
Yeah.
I think it's a good decision to go there. That's my personal opinion. Because number one, you're gonna be playing an NBA style of play.
Yes.
You're gonna learn how to play NBA basketball. Okay, because NCAA basketball is, and even just the rules, which I don't understand why their rules are different from everything else. That's like a different show altogether. But so if your goal is to be an NBA player, I think it is a good decision to go to the G League Select program. That's just
Okay.
my opinion. Number one, as I said, you make money. Number two, you still get your college education. They tied up with I think Arizona State. You still get your 4-year program whenever you choose to end playing and decide to go to college. So you still get your college education. You
Yes.
don't get the college experience as a student athlete. But if your goal is to be an NBA player, then I understand why you would want to go to the G League.
Okay.
That said, in terms of marketing, in terms of having that experience, going to college, it's a different thing. And if you want to do that route, you have to remember that these kids grow up in the US. They're thinking like, oh, I'm gonna go to college and I'm gonna go NBA. I understand that also. There's nothing. Where it's a crazy time, man. It's at the time when people had to choose between a G League or an NCAA. You don't even know what the hell is gonna happen with is the US NCAA. Are they gonna be able to play games? 'Cause
Yeah.
we're in time of COVID. You don't know.
Mm.
Right, so at least if you're in the G League, you're guaranteed. Okay, they're gonna make sure that we play games somehow. Right. So it's a really hard decision, especially if you're 17, 18 years old. But I just feel like the G League is a good option for players because number one, the NBA they want that program to do well. Because if they have players who enter that program and then do well, that means they're going to be able to attract more talent the following year.
Yes.
Right? So there's a vested interest by the NBA. Like this program needs to work because it's going to help our pipeline to bring in players into our league right away.
Correct. So two things from that, Coach Pao. Number one, college isn't for everyone. And number two, it's a case-to-case basis talaga. We can't say na the college route is better, G League Ignite is better. I mean, some kids need the money outright, diba? For financial reasons, which is true naman.
Yeah.
On the other hand, maybe, diba, some kids say, nothing like learning from Coach K.
Yeah,
Nothing
that's hey man, if Coach A is recruiting me, I'm like, dude, you might play 1 year with Coach K, but that 1 year with Coach K is going to pay off.
Exactly.
Right. So it's it's like you said, it's a case to case basis. I can't say this is better than that. Who knows? Like Jalen Green is probably going to be a top 5 pick. Right. And he would have probably been a top 5 pick whether he went to college or the G League. So it doesn't really matter for someone like him.
Right. Anyway, Coach Pao, maybe ano na lang. We'll save that discussion for a possible pre-draft preview over here at Radio-Katipunan. But Coach Pao, I want to thank you for again for the hoop talk this afternoon. I wish you all the best. Hopefully, when the cases die down, when things become more settled, when everyone's safe and healthy, we can have an NCAA season for you guys. What's the latest news na ba?
Man, I don't know what's gonna happen. I know just as much as you do.
Okay.
Personally, I would love to have a season, UAP and NCAA. But that's above my pay grade, man. There's a lot of money involved to having a bubble, and there's a lot of bigger problems out there than just let's play basketball. I mean, let's be real, man. It's a crazy time right now.
Right.
So I just hope that everyone stays safe, everyone stays healthy, and I really hope that the cases go down soon. And I'm hoping, who knows, man, maybe by the end of the year, maybe we can see some college sports. Hopefully.
Hopefully, well, I mean, Coach Pao naman, we're all praying for that, diba? And you too, please stay safe, take care. Thank you so much again for joining us, Coach Pao. Before we leave, any messages, greetings, shoutouts that you want to give, except for guys on the green side of Taft Avenue. And then, pero go lang.
It's watching that intro video of your show, it is kind of nostalgic for me. Every time I go back to the Ateneo campus, because obviously Moro Lorenzo is there. Sometimes we have games there. Sometimes I take a few extra rounds around, just driving around campus. It's a special place. Ateneo will always have a special place in my heart. And who knows, man? Hopefully one day down the road, I'll have an opportunity to come back home. So who knows? Let's see.
Always glad to be home. There are no place like home. Coach Pao, again, thank you so much. You know what? I think you got things to attend to for the rest of your afternoon. I wish you a great day and take care. See you again soon.
See you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Coach Pao. All right, guys, that's it for us over here at Radyo-Katipunan Sports. Please, again, tune into us for next Wednesday afternoon, only here on Radyo-Katipunan, the voice of the Blue Eagle. This is Anthony and Coach Paolo signing out. Peace.
Welcome to The Rundown, where we take you right into the action with the latest sports news, updates, game previews, breakdown, and analysis in, around, across, and beyond the Ateneo. And now, let's get ready to run down!
Radyo Katipunan, Radyo Katipunan,